You ready?
Ready? I'm
Are we
recording.
recording already?
I am. I don't know why it didn't like do the whole recording in progress thing, but we're
Cool.
recording.
Hey, well, let's just go. Let's kick it. So Friday,
It said it when we were signing in. It just tells you that it's recording.
Oh,
awesome,
yay.
awesome. I didn't see it. So here we go. Let's go. We've got systems and models set up over here. So Freestyle Friday, we usually either have a guest coming in that we feature, or we open the floor for you all to bring your challenges, bring your opportunities, bring your questions, so where all of us can get together and help one another. And yet, before we jump into that, I just wanted to share really quickly a really compelling angle and mindset shift around what we get to do that I was listening to the other day, and I thought it was beautifully said, wonderfully worded, and I had to like pause it, take notes to write it all down. And it was a clip between uh, one of the coaches that I follow and a conversation he was having on a podcast. And he was talking about the ABCs of selling. Now, how many of you have ever heard of the ABCs of selling? What do the ABCs of selling stand for from your perspective? The ABCs. You ever heard that?
Always be closing.
Yeah, how many of you heard that before? Always be closing, always be closing. And like I love that, and that's kind of like, ooh, yeah, ooh, like good fist bump, always be closing. Like nice job, bro. But that's the other side of it, is like it sometimes feels when you're on the other side of someone that's always be closing, it feels like what? Ew. Right? It's a little slimy, it can be sometimes a little disingenuous, it could be a little bit like create some distance or even resistance in the conversation. And this guy was talking about there is a very good ABC when it comes to selling, and it's simply this: always be curious. Always be curious. And so we go back to, if you think about whoever's talking in the conversation is dominating the conversation, yet whoever's asking the questions controls the conversation. And the psychology around this is that when you can demonstrate that you can truly understand somebody's pain point or problem, people then will trust you with a solution. So if you the challenge is if you're only selling a solution without asking what the problem is, people will resist you and say, "Well, that's not the problem." How many times have you ever got super excited about something and you wanted to share it with someone and someone's like, "But I'm not interested in that. I don't care about that." And so if you just lead with a solution, people will generally resist and say, "Well, that's not my problem." However, if we show up with questions, if we show up with true curiosity and start to identify and uncover and allow people to start explaining and sharing with you what their situation is, we can then begin to understand their problem. And once we can demonstrate to them that we understand their problem, they then can begin to trust us with a recommendation for the solution. So the ABCs of selling is about always being curious. And the thing is, we never have to sell a solution. We just have to recommend options. The best options have everything to do with the problem that's stated. So how do we get there, right? We get there through asking questions. What kind of questions? Simple questions that start from the past, that allow people to answer easily without feeling like there's a wall or a barrier, right? So some examples that they talked about is like, so how did you choose the home that you're currently in? Or how did you choose the neighborhood that you're in? How long have you been there? What do you love about being there? What would you like to continue to see in the future? Or what's something in your world you wanted to change with a move like this? How soon? What happens, how long have you been looking? Like, keep asking the questions. And then lastly, here on this little topic before we jump into your questions, is one of the most powerful transitions from listening to recommending is this. And this is beautiful. And this is about keyword backtracking. And it goes like this. It says, because of the fact that you said this, this, and this, for those reasons specifically, I'd recommend this, this, and this. So, because of the fact that you mentioned this, this, and this, because of those reasons specifically, I'd recommend we do this, this, and this. Or I'd recommend you look at this, this, and this, and then we can do this. Real quick thoughts around that. I loved that real quick shift. Because look, I've been in a lot of training. I've done a lot of coaching and training where the push is for closing. And look, also don't mistake me. The ending of a great presentation is asking or moving towards an opportunity to help somebody do business. How we do it has everything to do with what we've done up to that point. So closing is a natural progression of a great presentation or a great conversation. This approach, though, is one that I found for myself aligns a lot more with my behavioral style personality, but it doesn't always happen on the first conversation. In fact, I was on the alpha call yesterday with John Cheplack and the other leaders in our company, and he was talking about, he says, we fast track too much and we ask for the close too often and too soon for individuals where we haven't created enough deposits in order to create curiosity and trust. And he says he's like it's closer to a 5 to 7 to 1. Like contribute, offer, question, offer, value, 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 and then are you ready? And he says it's the same thing with consumers, buyers and sellers. How are they experiencing you? How are they meeting you online through social media? Do you have a newsletter? Are you connecting? Are you offering contribution and value through drip campaigns, etc.? And then when you have a really good message and a marketing message that matches the problems and the pain points of your consumer or your future customer, then naturally they go, oh, they understand what I'm feeling. They understand my situation. I now am maybe more apt to listen to what they would recommend as a solution. So I just wanted to present that, bring that, throw that here into the room, let that marinate and percolate into your mindsets and see what you think about that. So thoughts around that.
I got a couple things for you that actually directly revolve around this. I read in a book one time, I can't remember where, but this line resonated that if you provide the solution too quickly, you now own the solution and the problem.
Ooh.
So then that was actually out of the selling book. And if you've read Ninja Selling, they talk about what you were talking about. Ask the easy questions first. How long have you been here? What do you like about the neighborhood before you start getting into the really hard questions? Start priming the mind, put those answers. But there was one other thing. Oh, and for those of you that have read, I don't know, Michelle has recommended the book several times, Chris Voss's book, but the gold is in the silence. So zip it up, let them answer.
And that book, for those that are new to this call, is Exactly What to Say, Real Estate Edition by Chris Jones. Or Phil,
No,
I'm sorry,
Chris Voss.
Phil Jones.
Right. Then there's the book of Chris Voss, the Never Split the
Never
Difference.
Split the Difference?
Yeah, but he wrote another one with a real estate agent called I've showed it a couple times. Oh, there it is. The Full Fee Agent, where he talks about that same thing.
Good.
So
I don't know if I knew that. That's a good book. Yeah, I thought you were
And
talking about the Phil Jones book.
No, they talk about basically what he talks about, Never Split the Difference, but from a real estate perspective, since it was written by Steve Shull, who's a former Miami Dolphin and a real estate agent coach.
Right on.
But yeah, the gold is in the silence. So when you ask the questions, let them answer, because they will start to talk and start to present. People love to talk about themselves, right? So just let them talk.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's also it's building trust, right? Like think about times anyone has ever tried to sell you something and they just immediately jump to the selling part. But if they actually take the time to get to know you, then you just have that trust, you build that rapport with the other person. And it's like, okay, now we can talk about this other stuff. But if they just jump right into the closing, it's like, ugh, that's when it feels pushy or salesy that we all try to avoid, right? You've got to build trust with people. And the only way you can do that is by being curious, like Matt said, and asking questions and getting to know them.
All right. Any other?
One of the interesting notes from the Full Fee Agent, one thing he talks about is Are you the fool or the favorite? And if you get called to come do a listing appointment, if they call you, they've already made up their mind on who they're actually going to hire to sell their house. So it's up to you to decide or to find out if you're the favorite, the one that they've already chosen in their minds, or the fool, if they're just interviewing extra agents just as a matter of, the course. So we all do it. We research social proof. We research everything before we make a purchasing decision. Sellers do that too.
Awesome.
So,
any other thoughts on that before we jump in and open up the floor? All right. So what you guys have going on? What challenges, obstacles, questions do you have jumping into 2025? We're already into the second week. Already in the second week. What you got?
For me, I feel that people, well, I don't feel, I know they're asking for a lot of things on their inspection notices. I'm talking like, 3% of the home's value. I've got stuff that's not that that's always, I had one, it's close to $17,000 worth of stuff. And this house has like a new furnace, a new roof, like new hot water heater. And I do know that there are some of those things that are on that list that are safety kind of things, like somebody had not pigtailed the like the aluminum copper connection and everything correctly. So there's some things that I would say I would want to address. And I really did take it down with the seller about, there
So what's real quick? What's the question?
well, it's like it's a lot. And then when you go back and you try to talk to the other agent, it's almost like she was getting like defensive and condescending and just really,
All
and
right.
I'm just like, hey,
So what I'm hearing, what I really want to kind of delineate here
yeah.
is I'm hearing emotion, emotion, emotion.
Mhm.
You're saying it's a lot. You're saying they are defensive and offended. As agents, is it your house and are you buying it?
No, that's
So
actually what I
okay,
said
so
to
pause. Yeah, so like our job is to present and educate
her. Mhm.
and then communicate and negotiate.
Yeah.
How you feel about it is irrelevant. How they feel about it is irrelevant, the other agent.
Mhm.
It's our job to communicate whatever concerns that our client has, and then also come back and educate the client saying, okay, like, where's like, where are these? Well, if we're starting to see a trend of the people that we're working with are beginning to ask a lot of for inspections. The question that I have is, okay, where in
Mhm.
your presentation do you talk about expectations through the inspection process?
Mhm.
And what people are currently asking for, negotiating, and what's getting accepted these days, and what the purpose of inspections are. So in my mind, it's like, if things continue to show up throughout the process that are causing a challenge in getting the deals taken care of, my question then is, okay, how do I present this, or how do I handle this at the beginning
Mhm.
through a powerful presentation where this is addressed and we can start setting a certain expectation at the front? Now, I'm going to do everything I can to help and support the client. But if what they're asking for is going to put them in a position where the deal could get canceled or not go through, then we're going to have that kind of conversation for sure. I think one
Mhm.
of the biggest challenges that we have is to not absorb the emotions of the client or the other agent, and simply just present this and this. No opinion, no story. What they're
Mhm.
asking for is what they're
I
asking for. There's been plenty of times where I'm absolutely embarrassed personally to present something, and I present it and leave and it's accepted.
uh
And I'm like, what the heck just happened? How'd they do that? You don't know, because we don't know what the seller's motivation and needs are. And the fact in the back of their mind, they're like, okay, if they come in anything less than $20,000 worth of ask, then we're a yes. And you're sitting there with a $17,000 repair list, going, I can't believe they're asking for this, but the seller's like, whoo, we saved $3,000. And you're like, man, this is ridiculous. No one should ever take this. And you present it and you're like, we're good. What? So like, again, I've been wrong more times than I've been right emotionally.
Mhm. Well, and now this is probably my own fault for doing this, but I had, explained kind of to the seller. Obviously, there's things that, we don't necessarily know what is going on. Obviously, sewer lateral and things like that. So there's other items that they could ask for, but they hit a ton of the points that I would have thought would have been things that would definitely have been asked for. Like they had a Federal Pacific electric panel, their roof needed to be replaced, those kind of things. So he was very proactive and had those things done prior to putting the house on the market. And then he's getting nickeled and dimed afterwards. So I knew he was upset about getting nickeled and dimed, but I'm very like empathetic, and I have a bad tendency to like take on how other people are feeling about stuff. So I do know that I do that. So when he's feeling bad about it, then I end up feeling bad about it. Like the seller. I mean,
It's
I don't
that's
really give a crap with the buyer side. They want to
Yeah,
buy the house. My seller wants to sell the house. Let's figure
yeah,
out how to make it work.
correct. The hardest part is removing ourselves emotionally from it. And especially if you've
Mhm,
got a high empathy, it's the hardest part. I get
mhm.
that. I get that. Right. Peggy, you had your hand up.
Yes, Brooke, I have a tendency to do that too, but I have to step back. I find myself to step back. But if you want to think about it, they're paying higher interest, I had a recent one, and they went ahead and did, I don't know, they got the money maybe from their investments, and then of course I didn't ask how are you doing cash, but they did cash, which until they could get a lower interest rate. Um, and I think that they're doing things differently. So they're feeling like, why am I going to take more out of my pocket to take care of these things? And so we got to, I've been in it a long time though, so I've seen different things. So I think they're going to have to do things differently, when they have the lower interest rate, especially if you're going with second or third time buyers, they're used to getting it a little, we're going to see more of this, Brooke. I think we're going to see more of this, and we got to get out of I'm the same way. Sometimes they get embarrassed because we've been in this real easy, believe it or not, we've been in an easy market. So now we got to get back into negotiating and really doing our job and working for our clients.
Yeah. I know this is going to surprise you, but I think you have to look at the data too. And so maybe when that home initially went on the market and you were looking at the things that they needed to replace, the data supported that people weren't asking for as much. And now the market has shifted even more. We're starting to notice it is definitely, I don't know about you guys, but here in Des Moines, we're definitely more balanced. And in some areas and price points, we have more of a buyer's market. And so in those cases, we are experiencing more asks. It's just natural. That's what happens when you shift from a buyer's market to a seller's market. So what data do you have that can support your conversation with them and say, "Hey, listen, when we went into this, I'm assuming this is probably one of the flips that you did. When we went into this several months ago, the market looked a little bit different than it does now. I'm tracking the data and this is something that's happening. So yes, well, that information that I gave you at the time was accurate. We can't always predict what is going to happen going forward. And unfortunately, we're seeing that shift, the data showing it, show them the data, help them understand that, and then talk through that. It takes that personal responsibility out of it and it lets the data just really drive that conversation. You can't control the market. You'd love to control the market and what is happening, but ultimately none of us can control the market. So how do we communicate how that market has changed? And hey, it wasn't necessarily that you were wrong in that initial information you gave them. It's that something's changed now that has impacted the market and it's people are asking for more.
Other thoughts around that to help Brooke? All right, guys, we got 5 more minutes. What do we got? What you got? What have you run up against? What else are you needing help with?
If you don't set expectations, basically you're already failing your buyers or your clients or whoever they are. Purposely purposely paid for an inspection report so I have it and I can share that copy with, and it was a bad one, with my people. That way I can tell them, look, this is what is going to come up on the inspection report. And it's actually just something that they have to note because it's not up to code or whatever. But if we go through this huge long list of asks, like, you're basically going to get laughed at, and you're not going to get jack out of this. So
Yeah.
not setting expectations, you're failing yourself and your people.
Yeah, it reminds me of a quote that I loved, and it's unspoken or unarticulated expectations are future resentments.
Remember that in your relationships too.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Expectations unarticulated are future resentments. Yeah.
I really like that idea that Tess just shared of having a sample inspection report in your listing presentation so you can show people like, hey, here's what this looks like. Because I think a lot of people are like, well, my house is just fine. I've lived here and I haven't had any issues. And we hear that every single time. But literally showing them like these are the kinds of things. It's the code, it's the stuff, it's the hidden stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really good idea, Tess.
I'd be terrified to get my house inspected right now. I've been here for 10 years. Like I don't want to see that. I know how many pages that would be.
What
And
was that you said? Expectations. What?
so unspoken or unarticulated expectations are simply future resentments. Yeah, if you don't let people know what the process is going to be like, then they're going to be upset when they experience it because it's a blind side for them. But if you can let people know what's coming or what the expectations of the whole thing is going to be, and then when it happens, they go, "Oh, okay, cool. Brooke told us it was going to be like this. So, all right, let's just figure this out." Instead of, "Well, that's ridiculous and nickel and diamond me to death," versus, "Hey, even though you did these things, we may see something on the inspection report. It doesn't mean we have to say yes to it all, but like it still may show up. I don't want you to feel any kind of way about it. They're going to ask for everything they can." Like that's just what they're going to do. It's not personal. It's not anything about your house. So,
I mean, lately I've been making sure that I tell my seller everything that won't pass FHA, even if they don't like me for it, because the majority of offers in my market and the listings that I've been doing are like I tell sellers that it's more than likely we're gonna get a FHA offer because I've had lenders pushing people FHA just because their rate is gonna look prettier, and I was like, if we don't make it FHA ready, we're taking ourselves, we want to have FHA on the MLS as a will sell. So I've just been telling them because I tell them, hey, I've worked with 300 buyers. I know I've been through 300 buyers appraisals. I know what's going to come up in this appraisal. So let's make it ready before we even list it as a make it ready for FHA and not pretend like, they're not going to call out peeling paint.
Love that. That's a powerful recommendation. Based on you saying this, this, and this, it sounds like I'd highly recommend we do this, this, and this. Let's get your house ready for FHA.
Yeah.
I do the same thing for especially veteran clients because the standards for FHA and VA are the same. And they're for a VA or an inspection is not even required, but it's the appraiser that will call out these things for loan approval. GFCI outlets, peeling paint, like Chris said, and things like that. So if you didn't know that VA and FHA use the same guidelines. So having those options from a seller to offer VA and FHA really opens up the market for them.
Right on. All right. Well, we are at time. So stay safe this weekend, stay dry or warm, and stay curious, my friends. Stay curious. And we'll see you on Monday, same time, same channel. Bring a friend. We'll take care.
Thank you.
Bye.